entire car is engulfed in flames. I could see the tires literally just melting on the ground. I didn't even know rubber melted that way.
A horrific accident and miraculous survival.
One of the police officers, they said, how did he get out of the car? And I said, Johnny. That's all I could remember. I said, Johnny got me out.
A mysterious Good Samaritan whose actions defy reason.
It had to be a miracle.
Baffling first responders.
There's only so much you can do when you have high voltage lines on a car.
It was early spring 2015 in Columbus, Ohio.
It's a great day, beautiful day.
Pastor John Boston was driving on Airport Road when a car crossed into his lane.
Well, one fireman, he said, you didn't hit the pole, you went through the pole.
A utility pole. The live transformer landed on John's vehicle.
And so thousands of volts are running through the car.
With his seatbelt stuck and door jammed, all he could do was watch the searing and consuming heat.
The windshield was melting, dripping, and the passenger window was folding into the car.
Literally liquefying before his very eyes, as seen in this picture.
I thought to myself, I'm not going to get out of here.
But then a stranger appeared. He says a scruffy-looking man who easily opened the smashed door.
He reached in, he took me out. We walked maybe 20 yards from the car.
Just before the car exploded in flames.
I can still see his eyes. I can still see his eyes. He said, what's your name? And I said, my name is John. And he said, well, I'm Johnny. The police are almost here, and I can't be here when they get here, but you're gonna be okay.
And with that, Johnny was gone, while Pastor Boston was rushed to the hospital, where the questions began.
That area never lost power, so no one should have ever been able to touch the car, and I shouldn't have survived.
Potentially over 10,000 volts of electricity, stunning even veteran Columbus firefighters.
Oh, I got goosebumps. With the transformer on the car on fire, that's probably one of the worst runs we could roll up on.
It's like a fireworks show.
Immediately, people tried to rationalize what happened. Maybe the circuit breaker tripped and Johnny fled because he has a past. However, firefighters say breakers are designed to reset themselves, and electricity was clearly coursing through the vehicle when help arrived.
The person who touches that car, he's the ground.
You'll be electrocuted.
This video shows other cases of transformers blowing up, making rescue attempts extremely complicated.
Holy! You're going to have to jump away from the car and then shuffle your feet and follow those procedures. That's still risky.
But none of that happened with Pastor Boston, leaving the young husband and father with only one conclusion.
I don't think angels always come to us with wings and white robes and bright shining lights. I think they come as help, and that's what I had that day.
According to an Associated Press poll, 77% of Americans believe in angels. Encounters have been reported in the midst of many tragedies, from September 11th to tornadoes tearing across the Plain States. Pastor Boston says he doesn't care if people support him, but his heavenly encounter is already having an earthly impact.
I am more sensitive to making a difference in people's lives in the city that I serve, and I want to be an angel for them.
In Columbus, Suzanne Stratford, Fox 8 News.
What this man saw as he was driving was enough to make him hit the brakes.
Nobody will believe me if I didn't do this live, but I want you to look at this cloud in the sky. That's what I'm looking at right now. Look at this cloud in the sky. Is that not an angel or what?
It sure does look like an angel. What's going through your mind when you see this?
I was dumbstruck, I guess you could say. I was in shock. I'd never seen anything like it before with my own two eyes.
This is blowing my mind.
As Corey Heron gazed at the image in the sky above South Carolina, he was struck with awe.
Isn't that amazing?
It's almost like you could literally see feathers, a face, you can make out some hands.
Corey sat at the wheel of his car and just stared in disbelief.
I don't even think it's moved.
So is it a cloud formation or something much more meaningful? Corey says he knows the answer. No matter what, anyone else might think.
This is my angel. Look at this cloud in the sky. Is that not an angel or
Corey
what?
Heron took out his phone saying that he felt compelled to share what he was seeing. Not only that, he says that it was a sign that came at the perfect time because he was struggling with his spirituality. God was telling him, I am still here.
Madison County Dispatch.
My dad just had a car fall on him and he can't breathe. 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 I can. You can breathe now. I know it hurts, but you gotta do it. Hey, look at me. Look at me.
Wow, an Idaho man lucky to be alive thanks to his quick-thinking sons. Stephen Parker was nearly crushed underneath his car when his 50-pound son jumped into action, miraculously using the jack to lift up the car. Now 9 years old, J.T. Parker credits his strength to angels, and he joins me now along with his parents, Stephen and Jody, with this incredible story.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Stephen, tell us what happened on that day.
We were working in the backyard trying to pull some axles off a car. I pulled the one axle off just fine, but the other axle wasn't coming off, so I went to reposition the car a bit, and the jack immediately suddenly fell on me. And my older son went in the house to address a cut on his hand, so he wasn't there. But JT was there, and so I couldn't breathe, but I had time to say one last word. My last word was to JT, jack up the car quick.
Wow, JT, how did you know how to do that?
I've just been working with my dad, so I see him do it all the time.
Wow, so you just started jumping up and down on the jack, and the car slowly went up?
Yes.
And then that saved your dad's life, right?
Yes.
What do you think, what do you credit, what gave you the strength to do that?
Angels.
Angels did. Jody, where were you at the time?
I had actually left home to go pick up some cousins to come and play with my daughters.
And then you came home?
And then I came home to my older son on the phone with 911.
Wow. Wow. So, Stephen, what happened? What type of injuries did you suffer?
I suffered 13 broken ribs was all that I really suffered from the whole ordeal, which was amazing considering the car was crushed on me, smashing me so.
Do you feel like there was a miracle that happened here?
Without a doubt. I know it was a miracle.
Why?
Because I should have been killed by it. My brother-in-law was there, and he's seen accidents like this before, and in both situations they were fatal.
You were underneath the car. You would have been crushed underneath the car, and your young son was able to lift up a car basically by jumping up and down on the jack. Now, I understand, Jody, you tried. Your son went out to the garage later and tried a week later, and he wasn't able to do it?
He did. We decided to go out there and see for ourselves, like, how much he knew about jacking up a car and how strong he really could be. And he tried as much as he could and sat for several minutes, and he was not able to do it. Were you, JT?
Well, thank you so much. Miracles still happen. God bless you all. We're glad you're alive, Stephen.
Two powerful lights soar into the air as a tribute to lives lost on 9/11. But look closer. There's an image atop the lights. Is this a trick of the light? Jesus? An angel? A cross? Beautiful. Amazing. The man who took the photo says he was standing here on the waterfront in Hoboken, New Jersey when he captured the heavenly image. It was 9:30 at night and he was taking photos of the 9/11 memorial across the Hudson River. Some people think it's an unusual cloud formation. Others see a greater mystery. Rich McCormick took the photo.
I didn't realize the image was there until I went back to my camera and saw, and I enlarged it a little bit. I said, what's that white light up there? And when I enlarged it, and I kept enlarging, I said, wow, this is amazing.
Whatever it is, there's no denying this tribute in light is inspiring the world.
He suffered a heart attack on the interstate and barely pulled over in time.
No one came over to help until a guardian angel came to his rescue.
Yeah, who was it? They need to find that out, and they're asking for help in spreading the word.
Balbeer Paul was driving on I-79 North just 15 minutes from his home in Bridgeville when he suddenly realized he could go no further.
I got a heart attack.
He pulled off the highway just south of Cannonsburg, but was unable to call for help.
The cell phone fell down. I was holding my steering like that, and I got like a stroke. And I could not pick it up. I kept my window open, waving the hand for the people if they can stop by, help me. But people were flying at 80 miles.
Although the cars did not stop, a man walking by the highway did. He picked up the cell phone from the floor.
He called the 911. Within 5 minutes, the ambulance came.
But the passerby who made the life-saving call had disappeared.
I call him a guardian angel. He saved my life. My daughter, she's married. She lives in D.C.
Balbier Paul met fellow heart patient Ted Cantner during cardiac rehab.
He was so passionate about telling me this story about this young fellow that had been walking along 79. I thought, you know, there's got to be something that I can do to try to find the guy.
He tried social media with mixed results.
I get a lot of feedback in terms of what a great story, but nobody's found this guy.
What would Balbier say if he ever met the man who took the time to stop?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless you.
Thanking an unknown friend at the side of the road.
Angels protect us. I mean, I know I wouldn't be here this minute without an angel protecting me. Tell me about the time you had uterine cancer.
Yes.
And the healing angel.
Yes, I was diagnosed. They told me, I was only 28 years old. They told me I would have to have a hysterectomy. I wanted to marry, I wanted to have children. And I heard that Francis McNutt was in town. And so my friend and I went to a little home prayer group that night where he was praying. And I was seated in a chair, and he had his hand on my head praying for God to heal me. And there was only 5 or 6 of us there. And I was sitting in the chair, and my head kept going back on the back of the chair. And I felt like he was pressing too hard on my head. So I opened my eyes to ask him to not press so hard. And he had moved. He was standing across the room with his arms held up, praying. And there was no one with a hand on my head. And so I knew it was an angel. And I literally couldn't get out of the chair for a long time. I was held into the chair while God's healing power just went through my body. And the next day I went to the surgeon that was going to do the surgery over in Tampa. And he examined me and he said, "You've been totally and completely healed. There's no cancer." What was so wonderful to me about that story is we did marry later, and we have 2 amazingly wonderful children.
Very briefly, tell me about that sign you saw of the 3 angels, so you knew you were supposed to marry Francis.
Well, we were at a retreat center because, you know, we both needed to hear it was God's will. And we were praying in a room together, and 3 angels came into the room while we were praying. And one of them leaned over next to him and said something to him. And I just knew that he had heard. And so when we finished praying, I said, "Did you hear?" I didn't tell him about the angels. I said, "Did you hear?" He said, "No, not yet." And he went up to the chapel and got on his face before God. And he said, "I'm not going to move until I know what I'm supposed to do." And then he heard it, that he was meant to marry and to take me as his wife.